Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about this series of books called Warbots. It's a 12-part series by an author named G. Harry Stine, who I don't think really got enough attention when he was alive, and I still don't think he does. He was a sci-fi writer, but before he was a science fiction writer, he actually worked at White Sands Missile Range. So he was a civilian scientist. He had a degree in physics, which makes him near and dear to my heart, being a physicist. But he worked at White Sands as a civilian scientist until about 1956, 57, and then he became head of the Missile Test Facility and Range Operation Division there as a government employee. He was actually good friends with a science fiction writer named Robert Heinlein. In fact, you'll see some of the Heinlein books, like How Spacesuit Will Travel, was dedicated to him. Some were dedicated to Mr. Stein's wife, Barbara. In fact, Heinlein was in their wedding. So that's how close those two were. He also wrote under a pseudonym Lee Corey for a while, which was kind of an interesting thing to have sort of those two personas in one person. But this series of books I thought was interesting, so much so that it was out of print, and I actually went and got it put back in print personally. Because it was written in the late 80s, early 90s. So it started about 88. I think the last one was published in like 92, 93. So it's a 12-part series. It came out pretty fast. But the whole series is about a futuristic at the time military where everybody in our military at least was fighting with robots instead of with actual boots on the ground and people. But you could telepathically control the robots from far, far away. We're not far off from that technology now because most drone operators are in Las Vegas and drones are all over the planet. Um, they're not telepathic; it's much different, but we're not terribly far. We're looking at brain implants in certain companies. So, is this set of stuff realistic? But the point to the books wasn't, oh, look at what we can do with this nifty technology. The point to the books was, here's the Achilles heel of that technology. So this book was set, the first one was set in a world where we didn't have anybody in our army who was used to actually fighting on the ground anymore. They were all used to just send in the bots and we'll operate the bots from here. It'll all be good. But what happens when there's a task that the robots can't do? What happens when you cross that bridge from, yeah, the bots got it under control, no big deal, to, oops, there's one the robots can't do. And you have to go learn how to fight again. You have to learn how to be a military again. And it poses that question across a series of 12 books. Some of it goes pretty well, some of it gets pretty bumpy, as you can imagine. And think about it another way. You take robot operators who were the combat soldiers of the future and put those same robot operators on the field. What are they worth? Because those guys know every secret of the workings of our military. So if you can grab one of our robot operator specialists, what's that guy worth to you, right? Because it tells you all of our weaknesses all over the military. So it was an interesting series of books, so much so that when I read it, I poured through it, all 12 parts. I think my dad poured through it too. He really liked them. But it was out of print, so I went and dug them up and got them put back. Um, but I personally don't think they got enough attention. I just don't. Fantastic series really does ask the question of, hey, are we headed on the right track? And I think him having the experience he had as with a scientist and a writer allowed him to explore some territory of things he saw coming. So, it's very well done. I enjoyed it. There's 12 of them written over a short period of time, so it does get a little bit repetitive in places, but they're kind of formulaic towards the end. But the first couple are fantastic books. I've read all 12. I've enjoyed thoroughly all 12. Really enjoyed the first four. After that, it became, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them immensely, but some people are going to not agree with that. By the way, he was also one of the early people in this country to push model rocketry. So he's sort of this guy that I think the world should know a little bit more about, but yeah, he doesn't. He did work under his pen name on a Star Trek novel called The Abode of Life. He wrote an original novel called Shuttle Down under his own name. Yeah, he did do some other interesting stuff. He wrote in Analog, consulted on CBS News during the Apollo program, did a bunch of really other interesting work. So I'm a big fan of his. Check out Warbots. I think the first one's on Kindle for like 99 cents. So they are out there. I hope you have a great weekend. Great sci-fi series, 12 of them in it. Check it out today. It certainly is an interesting thing to try to ask of, are we on the right track with our roboticized military, or are we not necessarily heading the right direction? Interesting question. I hope everybody has a great weekend. And this particular weekend, depending on when you see this video, the Super Bowl is coming up tomorrow. I'm really in it for the commercials at this point, but hey, what are you going to do? Because my team didn't even make the playoffs. But that's okay. It's still fun to watch. So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see everybody soon. Bye.